The dojo smelled like sweat and determination, rubber mats and discipline. Lucas Bennett stood at the edge of the training floor, watching his 5-year-old daughter Mia practice her white belt forms with the other beginners. At 42, Lucas cut an unassuming figure in his worn jeans and denim shirt, his shoulder-length hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. The other parents barely glanced at him, just another dad waiting for his kid to finish class. He'd been bringing Mia here for 3 months now, ever since she'd begged him to learn karate after watching a cartoon about martial arts. Lucas had hesitated at first. Money was tight, and the monthly fees were a stretch, but seeing the confidence bloom in his shy daughter had made every sacrifice worth it. "She's doing well," said Master Kenji, the dojo's owner, pausing beside Lucas. "Natural balance. She listens carefully. She's a good kid," Lucas said quietly, watching Mia concentrate intensely on getting her stance right. "You have training?" Master Kenji asked, his eyes sharp and assessing. Lucas tensed slightly. "Some. Long time ago. I can tell by how you watch. You see the mechanics, not just the movements." The older man smiled slightly. "Marines, Army, Ranger Battalion. But that was another life." Master Kenji nodded, understanding in his eyes, and moved on to observe the class. Lucas exhaled slowly, pushing away memories of Afghanistan, of combat training that had saved his life more than once, of the explosion that had ended his military career and left him with a limp he tried to hide and chronic pain he never mentioned. That's when they walked in. The twin women were impossible to miss. Both blonde, both in their late 30s, both wearing pristine white karate gis with black belts tied precisely at their waists. They moved with the synchronized confidence of people who'd trained together their entire lives, their bearing suggesting wealth, power, and the kind of success that made other people. "Step aside automatically." Alexandra and Adriana Westfield, whispered another parent to her companion. "The Westfield twins. They own that massive tech company, West Tech Solutions, worth billions supposedly. They train here sometimes when they're in town." Lucas watched as Master Kenji greeted the twins with deep respect. They bowed formally, then began stretching with the kind of focused precision that spoke of decades of practice. The advanced class started soon after. Lucas usually left during this part, taking Mia for ice cream while the adult students trained. But today Mia was invited to watch by one of the instructors, a special opportunity for the younger students to see what they could aspire to. So Lucas stayed, sitting on the bench with his daughter, watching as the advanced students, including the Westfield twins, went through their drills. They were good, very good. Their techniques were sharp, powerful, controlled. Several other students looked competent, but the twins were in a different category entirely. "Daddy, they're amazing," Mia whispered, her eyes wide. "They've worked very hard for a very long time," Lucas said. "That's what practice looks like." After the formal drills ended, the class moved into sparring. Master Kenji paired students carefully, matching skill levels and body types. The twins sparred with each other, a fluid exchange that looked almost choreographed in its precision. Then Alexandra, or maybe it was Adriana, Lucas couldn't tell them apart yet, noticed him. She walked over, her sister following. Up close, Lucas could see they were identical in every way, except for subtle differences in their expressions. One had a slightly sharper gaze, the other a more analytical tilt to her head. "You've been watching very carefully," said the sharper one. Alexandra, Lucas guessed. More carefully than the other parents. Lucas felt multiple sets of eyes turned toward him, just interested in what my daughter's learning. "You're lying," said the other twin, Adriana, matter-of-factly, "or at least not telling the whole truth. You're not watching like a parent, you're watching like someone who knows what they're seeing. I don't want any trouble, Lucas said quietly. I'm just here for my daughter. Alexandra smiled, but it wasn't entirely friendly. Master Kenji mentioned you might have training. Military, he thought. That was a long time ago. How long? Lucas felt Mia press closer to him, sensing the tension even if she didn't understand it. 14 years since I was discharged. Longer since I did any serious martial arts training. What style? Adriana asked. Combatives. Army hand-to-hand, some Krav Maga, little bit of everything really. Whatever worked in real situations. The twins exchanged a glance, one of those wordless communications that twins sometimes have. Then Alexandra spoke. Spar with us. The dojo went quiet. Even the students who'd been practicing on the other side of the room stopped to look. I don't think that's a good idea, Lucas said. Why not? Afraid? There was challenge in Alexandra's voice, but also curiosity. No, just realistic. You're both in peak condition, train regularly, have decades of classical training. I'm a 42-year-old single dad who hasn't seriously fought in 14 years. It wouldn't be a fair match. For us or for you? Adriana asked with a slight smile. Lucas met her eyes. I'm not looking to prove anything, I'm just here to support my daughter. Then support her by showing her what commitment and training look like, Alexandra said. Show her that her father isn't afraid of a challenge. It was a manipulation, Lucas knew. A clever trap. If he refused, he'd look cowardly in front of Mia. If he accepted, he'd likely embarrass himself against two expert martial artists who trained regularly and had every advantage. But looking down at Mia's upturned face, her eyes full of curiosity and trust, Lucas found himself nodding. 1 round. Light contact. I'm too old to get hurt showing off. Master Kenji stepped forward, his expression unreadable. This is most unusual. But if all parties agree, and it remains controlled, he looked at Lucas seriously. You're certain? As certain as I ever am about anything. The students formed a circle. Lucas stood feeling his knee protest, the one that had taken shrapnel and never quite healed right. He stretched carefully, aware of every year, every injury, every night of broken sleep. The twins stood across from him, side by side, confident and powerful. Behind him, Lucas heard parents whispering, some worried, some excited, some clearly expecting to see this scruffy single dad get humbled by these elegant, successful women. Ready? Master Kenji asked. Lucas nodded, falling into a stance he hadn't used in over a decade. His body remembered, even if it protested. Muscle memory from hundreds of hours of training, from situations where hesitation meant death. Begin. The twins moved together, a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm through synchronized precision. It was beautiful, classical, textbook-perfect karate. It also left openings that Lucas's combat-trained eyes spotted immediately. He didn't fight like them. He didn't use their flowing techniques or their elegant forms. Lucas fought like someone who'd learned in dusty compounds and urban warfare scenarios, where the only rule was survival and effectiveness trumped beauty every single time. He slipped Alexandra's strike, redirected Adriana's follow-up, and suddenly he was inside their synchronized rhythm, disrupting the pattern they'd probably practiced thousands of times. Not with strength. He didn't have the conditioning to overpower two fit martial artists in their prime, but with angles, timing, and the kind of practical efficiency that came from training where mistakes had lethal consequences. The first exchange ended with both twins off balance, surprised, resetting their stances with new wariness in their eyes. If this story is resonating with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments about a time someone underestimated you, and what happened when you proved them wrong. You're better than you suggested, Alexandra said, circling. I said I was realistic, not incompetent, Lucas replied, his breathing already harder than he'd like. Age and inactivity were real factors. He couldn't sustain this for long. They came at him again, but this time they weren't testing. This was serious, two highly trained black belts working in perfect coordination against a single opponent. Lucas lasted longer than anyone expected. He used every trick he'd learned, created angles, disrupted their timing, exploited the split-second gaps in their coordination. He wasn't trying to win, just to not embarrass himself in front of his daughter, to show that her father was capable even if he was tired and broken in ways 5-year-olds didn't need to understand. But age and injury eventually told. His knee buckled slightly on a pivot. Alexandra saw it, adjusted, and suddenly Lucas found himself defending rather than creating opportunity. Within seconds, Adriana had him in a controlled hold, Alexandra positioned to strike if this were real combat. "Yield," Lucas said calmly. They released him immediately, stepping back with formal bows. The dojo erupted in applause, from the students, from Master Kenji, even from the parents who'd been so ready to see this unremarkable single dad get demolished. Lucas bowed back, breathing hard, feeling his knees screaming and his back aching, but also feeling something he hadn't felt in years, the satisfaction of being truly tested and not found completely wanting. "Daddy!" Mia crashed into him, hugging his legs. "You were amazing." "I lost, sweetheart." "But you were so cool. You moved like a superhero." Lucas picked her up despite his protesting back, holding his daughter close. "The real skill is in losing gracefully. Remember that. It's not about winning. It's about showing up and doing your best." The twins approached, their expressions completely changed. The challenge and arrogance were gone, replaced by genuine respect. "We underestimated you," Adriana said simply. "Most people do," Lucas replied without bitterness. "I'm okay with that." "Where did you train?" Alexandra asked. "That wasn't sport martial arts, that was something else entirely." "Fort Benning, Bagram, Kandahar, a dozen forward operating bases you've never heard of." Lucas set Mia down gently. "The Army teaches you to fight to win, not to score points. Different objectives. You were Army Rangers," Master Kenji said, approaching. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir, 10 years. Would have been more, but an IED had other plans." The twins exchanged another look, and Lucas recognized it now. A conversation without words, a decision being reached. "May we speak with you after class?" Adriana asked. "Privately?" Lucas hesitated. He needed to get Mia home, make dinner, help with her homework. Single-parent responsibilities didn't pause for mysterious conversations with billionaire martial artists. "It's important," Alexandra added, "and potentially beneficial. We have a proposition. Can it wait until tomorrow? I have parenting duties." "Of course." Alexandra nodded. "Tomorrow, then. Lunch? Our treat. And please bring Mia if you prefer. We understand that childcare isn't always easy to arrange." Lucas studied them, trying to figure out the angle. In his experience, wealthy people didn't offer lunch to broke single dads, unless they wanted something. But he also recognized genuine respect when he saw it, and whatever these women wanted, they were at least being straightforward about wanting to discuss it. "Okay. Lunch tomorrow. Where?" They named a restaurant that made Lucas internally wince at the probable prices, but he kept his expression neutral. "What time?" "Noon? We'll send a car. I can drive myself." "We insist," Adriana said, and there was something in her tone that suggested this wasn't about charity but about respect, about treating him as someone worth sending a car for. "Please, allow us this courtesy." The next day, the car that arrived at Lucas's modest apartment was a town car with a professional driver who treated both Lucas and Mia with perfect courtesy. Mia was delighted by the fancy car, chattering about school and karate and how her daddy had been so brave fighting the pretty ladies. The restaurant was exactly as expensive as Lucas had feared, the kind of place where servers wore suits and menus didn't have prices. But the twins were already there, now dressed in business attire that probably cost more than Lucas's monthly rent, and they greeted Mia with warm attention that seemed genuine. "This is a very grown-up restaurant," Adriana said to Mia. "Have you ever been somewhere this fancy?" Mia shook her head, eyes wide. "Then you're in for a treat. The chef here makes the most amazing desserts." They ordered, the twins insisting Lucas get whatever he wanted, and making sure Mia had options she'd actually eat, and made small talk while waiting for food. But Lucas could feel the real conversation waiting, the proposition they'd mentioned. Finally, after Mia was happily eating chicken fingers that probably cost $20, Alexandra leaned forward. "Lucas, we looked into you. I hope that's not offensive, but we make it a practice to research people we're interested in working with." "Working with?" "Army Ranger, as we confirmed. Purple Heart. 3 commendations for valor. Honorable discharge after injuries sustained in combat. Since then, you've been working as a security consultant. Freelance work, mostly corporate clients, nothing regular." Lucas felt exposed but kept his voice level. "That's accurate. You're also raising your daughter alone, struggling financially, and according to our research, you're about 3 months behind on rent. That's none of your business." "You're right. It's not." Adriana picked up where her sister left off. "But it becomes relevant when we want to offer you a position. I'm not looking for charity." "Good, because we're not offering it. We're offering employment." Alexandra pulled out a tablet, swiped it on, and turned it toward Lucas. "West Tech Solutions has expanded rapidly. We now have facilities in 7 countries, thousands of employees, and a growing need for comprehensive security. Not just cameras and alarms, but real protection for people and assets in sometimes unstable regions. You want me to be a security guard? We want you to be Director of Executive Protection and Personnel Security," Adriana corrected. "Building and managing a team, developing protocols, training staff. You'd be responsible for keeping our people safe in locations from Silicon Valley to Mumbai to Johannesburg." Lucas stared at them. "I'm not qualified for that." "You're the most qualified person we've interviewed," Alexandra said. "We've been through a dozen candidates with impressive resumes, former Secret Service, FBI, corporate security directors. All of them had credentials. None of them had what you demonstrated yesterday." "What's that?" "The ability to assess a situation instantly and respond effectively under pressure," Adriana explained. "The capability to defend against superior numbers with tactics rather than brute force. And most importantly, the integrity to prioritize your daughter's well-being over your ego, to acknowledge limitations, to lose gracefully. That last part especially," Alexandra added. "We need someone who can admit when they're outmatched, who won't let pride compromise judgment. Someone who understands that the goal isn't to win fights, but to keep people safe." Lucas looked at Mia, happily eating and oblivious to the life-changing conversation happening around her. "What's the salary?" The number Adriana named made Lucas's heart stop. It was more than triple what he'd ever earned, with benefits that included health insurance, retirement matching, and education assistance. "There's travel involved," Alexandra continued, "but we're committed to family flexibility. You'd have a team you could delegate to, and we'd make sure your schedule accommodated Mia's needs. She's your priority, and we respect that." "Why are you doing this?" Lucas asked. "Really?" The twins were quiet for a moment. Then Adriana spoke, her voice softer. "Our father built West Tech from nothing. He was brilliant, driven, and completely ruthless in business, he taught us to be the same, to see every interaction as a transaction, every person as either an asset or an obstacle. We've been very successful following that philosophy. But yesterday, Alexandra continued, we saw something different. We saw someone who could have embarrassed us. We came at you with arrogance, treating you like a curiosity, expecting to prove our superiority. You could have made us look foolish. Instead, you demonstrated skill while respecting us, challenged us while remaining honorable, and taught your daughter about dignity in both victory and defeat. It made us realize we've been hiring the wrong way, Adriana said. Looking at resumes instead of character, credentials instead of capability. We want to build a different kind of company than our father did, one that values people, not just profits, and we think you could help us do that. Lucas felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This was everything he needed: financial security, meaningful work, a chance to use his skills for something other than short-term contracts that barely paid bills. But it also felt impossible, like something that happened to other people, not to broken veterans living paycheck to paycheck in modest apartments. Can I think about it? Of course. Take a week. Talk to me about what the changes would mean. We'll send over the full job description and benefits package. Alexandra smiled. But Lucas, we're serious about this. We saw something in you yesterday that we've been searching for. Don't let self-doubt make you miss this opportunity. That week was the longest of Lucas's life. He researched West Tech Solutions obsessively, finding a company with a reputation for ethical business practices and employee satisfaction. He talked to me about the possibility of him traveling sometimes, but having more money for things like her karate classes and maybe a bigger apartment. He also wrestled with doubt. Was he really capable of this? Could a guy like him, with his background and his limitations, really step into a corporate leadership role? On day 6, he called Master Kenji, asking for advice. "You're afraid you'll fail," the older man said simply. "I'm afraid I'm not what they think I am." "What do you think you are?" Lucas thought about it. A survivor, someone who does his best with what he has. And what do they think you are? The same thing, I guess. Then where's the disconnect? Master Kenji asked. "Lucas, I've been teaching martial arts for 40 years. I can spot character in the first 5 minutes of watching someone train. You have it. Those women are very smart, very successful. They didn't get where they are by misjudging people. Trust their judgment. And more importantly, trust yourself." Lucas took the job. 6 months later, he stood in West Tech's global headquarters, leading a security briefing for department heads. His team, carefully selected and trained, had successfully prevented 3 potential security breaches, improved response protocols across all facilities, and earned the respect of employees who no longer saw security as an obstacle but as protection. Mia was thriving in a better school, taking not just karate but also piano lessons she'd been wanting. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with actual furniture instead of thrift store cast-offs. Lucas could afford her medical checkups, her activities, even the occasional trip to places she'd only read about. But the real change was inside him. He walked differently now, stood straighter, not because of money or status, but because he'd been seen, truly seen, by people who recognized his value when he'd nearly forgotten it himself. The twins had become more than employers. They'd become friends, people who checked in not just about work but about Mia, about his well-being, about whether he was taking care of himself while taking care of everyone else. "You changed our company," Alexandra told him during a quarterly review. "Not just the security protocols. You changed how we think about hiring, about leadership, about what we value. I just did the job you hired me for. You did much more than that." You showed us that humility and competence aren't opposites, that someone can be quiet and strong simultaneously, that the most capable people are often the ones who don't need to prove anything. A year after that day in the dojo, the twins invited Lucas and Mia to a company gala. It was a formal affair, celebrating West Tech's successful expansion into 3 new markets. During the event, Adriana took the microphone to speak. She talked about growth, success, achievements. Then she paused. But our biggest success this year wasn't a market expansion or a new contract. It was remembering what our father sometimes forgot, that the best investments are in people, not just products, that character matters more than credentials, that sometimes the most valuable person in the room is the one who isn't trying to prove they're valuable. She gestured to Lucas, standing uncomfortably in a rented tux, Mia beside him in a dress she'd picked out herself. This man walked into our dojo as someone we underestimated, a single dad waiting for his daughter's class to end. We challenged him to spar, expecting, to demonstrate our superiority, to amuse ourselves. Instead, he taught us humility, showed us grace, and reminded us what real strength looks like. And in doing so, he became one of the most important hires we've ever made. The room applauded. Mia beamed up at her father, and Lucas felt something he'd thought he'd lost in a dusty Afghan province 14 years ago, the sense that his life had purpose beyond just surviving day to day, that his sacrifices and struggles had led somewhere meaningful. Later, as they drove home, Mia asked, "Daddy, are you famous now?" Lucas laughed. "No, sweetheart, I'm just good at my job." "Because you're brave?" "Because I try to be kind, work hard, and remember what matters most." He looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror. "Which is you, in case you were wondering." "I know," Mia said with the absolute certainty of a loved child. "You tell me every day." And that, Lucas thought, was the real victory. Not the job or the money or the recognition, but the ability to provide for his daughter while teaching her the lessons that mattered, about dignity, about effort, about standing up when challenged and bowing gracefully when beaten. 2 billionaire martial artists had asked a struggling single dad to spar, expecting to prove their superiority. Instead, they discovered someone whose worth had nothing to do with his bank account, or his resume, and everything to do with the character forged through hardship and humility. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who've learned to survive without losing their humanity. Sometimes the best leaders are those who've learned to follow. Sometimes the most valuable employees are the ones who don't need the job to define their worth. Lucas had learned all of this in places most people never see, in situations most people can't imagine. And when given the chance to demonstrate that knowledge, he'd shown exactly who he was. Not a show-off, not a warrior looking for glory, just a father trying to provide for his daughter, a survivor trying to build something better, a man who understood that true strength isn't about domination but about protection, not about proving yourself but about proving worthy of trust. That's what the twins had seen. That's what they'd invested in. And that's what had changed everything, for Lucas, for Mia, for West Tech, and for everyone who learned that sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone wise enough to truly see them.